Good morning. My name is Pat de la Fuente, and I'd like to welcome you to the Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. We haven't that much sun this morning, but wasn't it nice to walk in without the scaffolding over the front? A lot of applause for the people who made that happen. It's great. Our community covenants to weave together the fabric of community from the strands of our separate lives. We are people of all ages, coming from a variety of backgrounds and experiences of the religious or the spiritual. Many Sunday services are led by our interim minister, the Reverend Joel Miller. Some others, such as this morning's, are led by members of the congregation. Some of you are here this morning in the meeting room. Others are with us online. We are an inclusive, welcoming congregation. Whoever you are, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. And I'll call attention to the announcements. There are announcements on the back of the order of service, but what I particularly call attention to is that this afternoon there will be a program on, okay, I'll read it to you. Basically, it said, join other people from the fellowship for a conversation about sexual orientation, pronouns, and the changing views of gender identity. I registered on Realm. I'm not sure exactly how you register, if you can just be here. It's in person, and it is for people over the age of 18. Well, that's one. Then this coming Saturday, February 4th, you're welcome to join the fellowship's board and staff in attending a stand-up event from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And there'll be more information on the email blast about it and to register. But it's basically to welcome Reverend Miller and help to create space to build a congregational history and explore expectations. So there will be people from the UUA participating as well. And next Sunday, February 5th, the Odyssey program will continue with a presentation of a film featuring Steve Runyon, who's been an associate this morning. Big help. Many of you recognize him for his work here. Come and hear the story of how he grew up down south and became a Dungeons and Dragons Grandmaster. That program next Sunday begins at 12:45, but there'll be additional refreshments after the 11:15 service to help you ward off lunchtime hunger. So, and Laurie Crosse will be the host on that, and there will be a Q&A session afterwards. So that's our announcement. And where do we go from here? These are my opening words. As UUs, we commit to a series of principles and draw on a variety of spiritual traditions, including, quote, spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. The Celtic tradition is one that has celebrated this time of year as Imbolc, which we recognize as Groundhog Day, a promise of better things to come. And we ask what sustains as we seek to emerge from this COVID pandemic. And I ask Laurie to come up and light the chalice. Basically, we seek comfort from our commitment to each other and to the pledge we make each week as we light the chalice. There. Alex, could you? Thank you. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Okay, and now let us sing our first song, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Rise in body or spirit, and sing it 2 times, please.
This morning, during Time for All Ages, we had all of the children come up and sit on the steps and listen to a poem from a book titled Rupert's Tales, The Wheel of the Year, which has a poem for 4 different times of the year that we celebrate, and today we're focused on Imbolc, which is the midwinter festival exactly halfway between the winter solstice and the spring, and also that actually connects to another holiday that we celebrate that I'm really tempted to see if somebody can guess what that is later on as I read the Imbolc poem. So Rupert the rabbit was cold, oh so very cold. All of the snow and ice was really getting old. The branches above him were bare as could be. His friends were all sleeping, and so was the tree. Here on the edge of the forest was a thick grove of trees, elms, oaks, birch, and many cypress with their long, knobby knees. Tomorrow, he thought, all the people will come with their dancing, chanting, rituals, and drums. No matter the season, right here was their place, a meadow or clearing, a kind of round space. He wondered, though, if this time they might just stay away. The weather was still freezing, even during the day. Oh, they'll come all right, he heard a small voice say. There's no need to worry, they won't stay away. Must be a fairy, Rupert thought, one with sparkling wings. Why, yes, said a cheerful voice, and I've come to show you some things. When Rupert looked, he saw people, but not the ones he already knew, tiny figures in the ice doing strange things that to him were brand new. See that woman there, asked the fairy. She's leaving out a ribbon of silk. And there's a small boy, he said, pointing at the ice, putting out a glass of milk. These things are left for Bridget, a fiery goddess of great fame. At Imbolc, there are many who seek her favor and bless her name. Oh, look, said Rupert, still gazing into the ice-covered lake. See those people? I wonder what it is they're going to make. They're gathered all together in a circle, each raising a hand, but what is it they're doing is something I just don't understand. They're making an important promise, the fairy explained with a smile. Imbolc is a time of beginnings, for things that can take quite a while. Imbolc is the time for the quickening of the earth, time to get ready for nature's cycle of rebirth. And as the season has a beginning, so too must it have an end. So how long, Rupert wanted to know, before I'll be warm again? There's a saying that people have, just like the ones you know. Now listen very carefully, for this is how it goes. This is it. If Imbolc day be fair and bright, winter will have another flight. If Imbolc day be clouds and rain, winter's gone and won't come again. No matter how we mark it or celebrate Imbolc Day, the wheel of the year is turning and spring will come our way. Anybody want to guess what that poem refers to? Our Groundhog Day, yes.
So do we in this congregation celebrate earth-based traditions and the Wheel of the Year? And why are we using the Celtic words like Imbolc instead of Groundhog Day? Well, we're living in a modern time so cut off from earth-based traditions that we sometimes look long ago and far away for information and inspiration. The word Celt or Celtic describes people from Northern Europe, people with weather similar to ours, and so we sometimes use their customs as we seek a meaningful connection to the earth. We also have in this meeting room, with its 8 walls, a model of the circle of the Earth's journey around the sun and a place to imagine celebrations. Those of you who are not actually here may want to close your eyes as you envision this setting. And something that happened in the first session that won't happen this time is the kids actually got up and helped designate the direction, so you're going to have to use your imagination. But we enter the building and this room in the north, which can represent the winter solstice, the longest night, the shortest day, the holidays many of us celebrated last month. The glass door over there is the east, representing the spring equinox when day and night are equal in length. The front of this room is the south, summer solstice with the longest day and the shortest night. And then we turn around and we go over here to that glass door over there. That's the west, representing the autumn equinox. Sometimes we also notice and celebrate the in-between days. I mentioned that there are actually 8 walls that make this room look like a circle. So look at the space in the east. After spring, but not quite summer, we have the beginning of May, May 1st, May Day, or Beltane for the Celts. Most of us no longer dance the maypole or give May baskets, but we seem to remember a time when people did this, and we very often celebrate lovely weather. Between summer and autumn, we have a day the Celts called Lammas, or Lunasa, a word that most of us don't know and probably think we don't celebrate. Unless maybe we go to a county or state fair or 4-H fair, even a farmer's market, and we celebrate an early harvest in August. Between autumn and winter, we have a day the Celts call Samhain, and we call Halloween. That's one we definitely recognize and celebrate. So here we go, from winter to spring, and as you get to the wall is over there. Imbolc Groundhog Day is in the space between winter in the north and spring in the east. It's a cross-quarter day, coming out of winter but not yet spring, and most likely will be celebrated by us, by people we know, next week, February 2nd, with events like seeing whether or not Punxsutawney Phil sees his shadow. Oh, and if you have any questions about the directions, you can just, when you leave here, check the ceiling in the Great Hall near the stairs. Go look in the ceiling. We actually have embedded the actual directions, so this building has always been oriented to the directions.
Dark of winter, soft and still, your quiet calm surrounds me. Let my thoughts go where they will, ease my mind profoundly, and then my soul will sing a song, a blessed song of love eternal. Gentle darkness, soft and still, bring your quiet to me. Darkness, soothe my weary eyes, that I may see more clearly. When my heart with sorrow cries, comfort and caress me, and then my soul may hear a voice, a still small voice of love eternal. Darkness, when my fears arise, let your peace flow through me. Darkness, when my fears arise, let your peace flow through me.
I'd like to begin with a short poem. If I should have that bravery of gaining love, I would hold this hand out, level, warm, for the buffeted, snowbound little birds to come and feed for all the years unharmed. If I should have that bravery of love. There are many fields where few birds come, through solitary storms on level land, without a creature save the hawks that rend, where scarecrows wait, holding an equal hand out for the little birds to come. But through a night so parallel with snow, I hold my hand out, steady, so. Nature teaches us in the story of the woodland critter, right, ambling out of its warm shelter into the cold winter air. How does that apply to us now? Psychologists say the shadow represents the dark, hidden sides of us, the fears, the habits that hold us back. And the sun, the ancient symbol of warmth, growth, life. Groundhog Day, the Celtic St. Bridget Day, and by the way, my drum is a bowran, which is the Celtic word for drum. Imbolc has been celebrated throughout millennia in folk, Christian, and pagan traditions. They symbolize preparation for new growth. So how does that relate to our COVID challenges? Though I missed much during COVID, it compelled me to clear away and simplify. Before COVID, Mike and I interacted daily with people through work, travel, fellowship, socializing. That came to a grinding halt, replaced by staying home, scared, ordering groceries, wiping down the mail, outdoors, human contact through something called Zoom. But there were blessings. We sold our house, moved to Jersey, and spent all but the first months of COVID near my daughter and her family. My private practice, formerly in person, is now virtual. Weather, traffic, schedules, phobias, they don't have to prevent people from getting the help they need. My Long Island Fellowship-sponsored meditation group, it continues, a vital virtual connection. The walks I used to take, they've become the norm again. Find the good. So how do we, this year, begin to reclaim our lives? Our principles call us to honor wisdom traditions, search for truth, in this case, the science of staying well, masks, vaccines, antivirals. Supporting people so that each of us can proceed at their own pace. Like the groundhogs, sooner or later, each of us is going to come back out. Though Groundhog Day happens like clockwork every year, COVID was different. A once-in-a-lifetime correction to slow down and evaluate what was important. Some animals hibernate regularly. A once-a-year reset. At what price? How many deaths? Companies closed. Us learning, emerging wiser from this crisis could help give it some bit of meaning. I've been helping in the fourth and fifth grade class for a few months. And earlier I sat them down here and asked them to stand. Because last week I consulted with them for their thoughts about reemerging. One youth acknowledged, this is our new normal. They spoke of both, what they didn't like and what they liked and learned. Finding ways to appreciate the little things in life, they said. Someone said, I used to not like rain, but I realized it's not boring. It's helping things grow. Still another said, I made new friends in my pod. I got some new hobbies. Like I became interested in musicals. Someone admitted, I didn't like not leaving the house or seeing friends, but it was fun and nice to be with family. My dog loved COVID. I worked on seeing the good, appreciating my family. They are so smart, those youth. Every week I'm amazed by their knowledge and courage and resilience. And though I come to teach them, it is in fact they who inspire me. They are our future. They give me hope. So I invite you, the next time on the street, in the fellowship, with your family, you are with a youth. Look into their eyes, capture, freeze the moment of their smile. Take that hope.
A reflection about Imbolc, COVID, and Groundhog Day. Imbolc is about celebrating the spring that will soon come, the light in the distance. A midwinter festival of lights and burning fires helps us to recognize that now is a time when we need extra light, extra clothes, extra patience, and extra resolve. As we consider the pandemic as a winter of sorts, it too was forcing us to either stay indoors or bundle our face up. Fear of contracting the virus was my main concern as I adapted through the pandemic. I felt lucky that I did not know anyone with COVID, and lucky that I was able to stay home other than food shopping every 3 or 4 weeks to a supermarket in the town with the lowest COVID count. Planning very carefully due to the high risk involved, my first food shopping expedition was to a supermarket in Kinnelon, about 25 minutes away. I had carefully scoured the COVID counts in every town in Morris County, and their counts were the lowest. I went as early in the morning as possible, happy to take advantage of senior hours. I wore a mask concocted from a tank top, and I was the only person in the store with a mask, but I didn't mind taking a fashion risk as it seemed like the type of protection everyone should have on. Scoping out each register to decide which seemed the safest, I found checking out my groceries meant standing uncomfortably close to someone who might expose me to the virus. It was the scariest part of my trip. On another food shopping adventure, I drove as far as Hunterdon County because their numbers were so low at the time. Up until 4 weeks ago, I was an elementary school teacher. Although the first 6 months of the pandemic required 12-hour days to prepare lesson materials online, meeting with students through online meets, and whichever family members in their home joined in, my stress increased when I was required to return to the classroom that September 2020 through months of pre-vaccine days. I wore a mask. Some days I wore 2 masks. Some children wore masks that fit, some did not. Some of the students' masks barely covered their faces, some fit pretty well. There was incredible consistency in that the quality of coverage for any student did not waver from day to day. They obviously had a personal policy of how much they were going to cover their face, and there was nothing that could be done about it, really, even with rules in place. About 3.5 months into the pandemic, I did a Google search for an online meditation group and found the Westchester Buddhist Center. They were a welcoming group that met at 9 a.m. every morning for a quick chat and then an hour-long meditation, alternating sitting and walking as one wished. As the year went by, I watched the leader's living room in Manhattan fill with boxes. Then one day we were introduced to their new living room in Boulder, Colorado. The idea of moving in the middle of a pandemic seemed incredible. But what had been happening in Manhattan at the start of the pandemic was incredible too. I found other online groups that focused on books, art, and music. As a lifelong learner, I was grateful to have stumbled on conversations where I would sit back and just listen, amazed at the level of knowledge participants shared. My favorite group is organized by an open-minded leader who encourages participation, whether you read part of the book, finished it, didn't finish it. He allows the conversation to touch on everything from history to economics to politics. His intention is to focus on stirring up dialogue. A leader of a different history book club is clearly conservative, with strict rules requiring participants to read the entire book and to never touch on politics. His rules became very clear when one participant who I knew from the other book group was verbally reprimanded for bringing up politics. The leader later apologized for his outburst, but that person has not returned. I found online groups can be a wonderful way of learning about common interests, and that, like any group, they create a culture people are either attracted to or repelled by, making it easy to see how a culture reinforces itself. Going back to Groundhog Day, February 2nd, 2020, a report in Vanity Fair stated, "Put your hats and scarves in storage. It is going to be a short winter." It continued, "This isn't just wishful thinking. This is an empirical, measurable truth discovered Sunday in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania." This was almost 3 years ago, a very, very long time ago, given the situation. The report did not mention or was unaware of how close we were, about 5 weeks away from a lockdown. Wishfully thinking that all we had to be concerned about was the possibility of 6 more weeks of snow.
Now we come to the time in this morning's where we have the morning's offering. And I'll read that to you. Marjorie Wormser will sing "Drive the Dark Winter Away." The offering this morning will be split 50-50 between this fellowship and the UUA Disaster Relief Fund in support of the UU Church of the Monterey Peninsula. They have been severely impacted by the wind and flooding this year in California. Instructions on donating online are in the order of service, and in person, the baskets will be passed around.
All hail to the days that merit more praise than all the rest of the year, and welcome the nights that double delights, as well for the poor as the peer. Good fortune attend each merryman's friend, all doth but the best he may, forgetting old wrongs with carols and songs to drive the cold winter away. 'Tis ill for a mind to anger inclined to think of small injuries now. If wrath be to seek, do not lend her thy cheek, nor let anger inhabit thy brow. Cross out of thy books malevolent looks, both beauty and youth's decay, and wholly consort with mirth and good sport to drive the cold winter away. This time of the year is spent in good cheer, and neighbors together do meet, to sit by the fire in friendly desire, each other in love to greet. All troubles forgot are put in the pot, all sorrows aside they lay. Women, children, and men do the best that they can to drive the cold winter away.
Now we come to sharing of milestones and passages, which we also sometimes think of as joys and concerns. And I have a joy here. This is from Shari Lowe. After 5 years as a staff attorney at South Jersey Legal Services, My son, Chris Benson, has been promoted to managing attorney for the Monmouth County office of this organization, which provides legal services to the poor. That's good news. Then Marjorie Wormser says, I am happy to report that my sister-in-law, who is managing progressive onset of Parkinson's disease, has successfully become a candidate for surgical implantation of a deep brain stimulator this spring. I certainly wish her well. And then here's a concern. Jerry Silk says that she has heard that John Oler is not doing well. This is a report from his sons, David and Mike Oler. Prayers and good thoughts are requested for him and the whole Oler family. And Jerry, you're here this morning, are you? Yeah. If you want more information about that, about John Oler, you can certainly talk to Jerry later. We definitely thoughts are going out to that family. And the last concern is one from Joel Miller. He's not here this morning, but he asked if we could play a video of a concern of his. And if you have any concerns, any questions about it later, you can probably talk to a member of COM or our President Laurent about it.
Good morning, Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I'm honored to be your interim minister. I'm grateful to be part of a congregation deeply committed to creating strong spiritual bonds among its members and friends, a congregation so committed to making the world a better place. And I want to acknowledge this morning, as part of our milestones and passages, that sometimes we hurt one another. Last week, there were comments made during the 11:15 service. It won't be helpful to describe what happened, but I want to acknowledge that some of us were hurt by the comments, and acknowledge that this congregation is committed to doing the right thing, especially as we're guided by living the 8th principle. You all clearly aspire to be a welcoming, caring, multicultural, spiritual community. And we aspire together to be anti-racist. To our members and friends who are Black folks, we want to be better at caring for you and seeing your lives, especially after the painful events of this past week. And for those of us who are white, I want to remind us that this is our work together. This is work for all of us, not just some of us. We all do it together. And we will do this together. And we will continue to be a blessed and loving community together. And we will continue to make an important difference in the world around us.
So we've shared both joys and concerns. Many of these joys and concerns that we have not been expressed this morning. And I invite you to just come into a special sacred space that has come together because we are together, and just have a minute of silence. Sometimes I hear UUs say they wish they had the belief of other religions, the faith that praying to some being would help them. I often respond that many UUs do indeed have that kind of faith, and they do pray. What I find especially empowering about being a member of this congregation is that we don't have to have the same beliefs. We value diversity, knowing that we can draw on each other's strengths as well as our own. How has being a member of this congregation helped me during the pandemic? It hasn't always been easy, especially during extreme lockdown. We think of ourselves as member of a community. This room, after all, is called the meeting room. It's where we come together. When we couldn't do that, when it wasn't safe, some of our rather extraordinary members set us up on Zoom and other online ways to connect. Some even meditated together when breathing in and breathing out in one space we couldn't breathe the same air. We formed community circles and book groups and cinema circles and had committee meetings looking at each other on a screen that made us look like Hollywood Squares or Brady Bunch or whatever TV image you have about that. We have valued resilience, even though sometimes we have seemed separated from each other by those boxes. Over my years here, I've learned that anything and everything can be considered sacred, and anything can enrich my life as I try to become whole or healthy. Here at this fellowship, we used to declare discipleship to advancing truth, a really wordy, almost Victorian phrase. We have since updated that wording. And yet, part of the scientific method is the willingness to change our mindset as new data emerge. Keeping an open mind has been really important as we learn new, sometimes conflicting information about COVID. A few years ago, I was part of a Sunday service on how do we know what is true? I asked myself that question many times during the past few years as I tried to navigate this strange new world. Consider what we thought at the start of the pandemic. It might take a while. How long is a while? Everything might get better when the weather changes or not, or we'd be okay if we had a vaccine, or maybe a vaccine and a booster, or several. Right now, our commitment to respecting each other's differences is being challenged. Some of us wear masks whenever we leave the house. Some of us don't leave the house at all. Many of us are vaccinated, some are not. Many of us have had some form of COVID. We know people who have died from this terrible disease. What truths have emerged? How can we live together in a time when we don't necessarily share the same truth? Can we avoid inflicting blame and guilt on ourselves and others? Well, guess what? I don't have the answer. But I do find comfort in comparing us to the groundhog, who has only a limited view of the world, in which each year is always a bit different from the year before. For us human groundhogs, the world has been strange and scary for the past few years. Each year a new and awful variant to this dreadful virus. And yet each year has a certain sameness, since we're never sure it's safe to come out. I think about the movie Groundhog Day, where Bill Murray has to repeat the same day over and over, although with slight variations which end up making him a more caring, honest person. We don't necessarily get our wisdom from a movie, but as UUs, there's nothing to stop us from doing so if we choose. Whenever I get together with someone I haven't seen for a while, we ask each other, how are you? How have you been? And invariably, we tell each other COVID stories. I need to tell my story, and I need to hear yours. That's what this morning's service is all about. May we continue to reach out to each other to tell our true stories and gradually emerge into a world like the one we will sing in this very optimistic song, Morning Has Come. Let me rise and give voice to that. the closing words are the simple phrase we heard so often during the pandemic: be safe, be well, blessed be.
Instead of buying, no, they print them in plastic. I've never done. Oh yeah. I still have a little bit. That's all. we did 3 iterations.